Okay, I kind of felt the need after finally got to watching Picard, this week's Picard, and but also seeing some of the reactions to this week's Picard, and frankly, I'm a little dumbfounded. I don't need this practice yet, unless somebody pops in. Lots of little, Easter eggs here and there. I'm not going to use their term member berries because they're not just dropping things in. It's a fleet museum. Of course, there's going to be old ships everywhere. It's a museum. For the love of God. And as for they're on the Daystrom, area. Yeah, it's a storage bin for all kinds of little things. Something that we know. Yeah, of course they have another Genesis 2 just in case they want to get weird. All right, bro. Welcome. And the little thing, people are getting upset because Kirk might be alive. I was one of the people start of the Bring Back Kirk movement back in the day, right after Generations. The little slogan, there shall be no peace until Kirk lives. That was me, assholes, okay? I coined that during a AOL message board discussion, I think. It's like, So the prospect that Kirk is possibly still, being kept in stasis and alive, we'd be jumping up and down. Yes, finally, we can undo Generations. The only drawback in this case is the fact that it is in the Discovery universe type thing. It's in the Discovery timeline, so there's kind of like kissing your sister, but it's something. And for the most part, if you go by my theory of how Trek timelines work, that the timelines eventually down the road do tend to remerge, and you got some of the same things happen in different timelines. So, Section 31, stashing away Kirk's body and keeping him alive somehow for all these years. It happened in the Picard thing. It's happening in the canon timeline too. Same reason, all these different things. You have Kirk assuming command of the Enterprise somehow. Either through assassination of Christopher Pike of the Mirror Universe, working his way through the ranks in the canon universe, or just, being the lucky guy in a game of Red Rover in the Kelvin timeline. It's whatever, certain, certain immovable, certain temporal point, attempts on the temporal timeline must happen. Sometimes in defiance of all logic, but they happen. You might have, I don't know, but yeah, she came back and blew up. Okay. And same thing, Roe doing their thing. There's certain. We are just about ready to remerge here. There's still, a little bit of a variance here and there. Like the old synth thing. I still don't buy the Romulan. The Romulan supernova is still a big sticking point with me. Because if I were to do, if I were to look at this from canon timeline, no, Romulus is perfectly well. Something else happened weird. But, they got Picard into an android body, so or whatever. You may not have that. But moving on along, okay, and I love the bit where they, stole a cloaking device. It's right there. They need to hide. It's like, hey, that thing's so the cloaking device on it. Yeah, mind a little petty larceny. We're just going to check it out from the library, okay? But, yeah, and I'm guaranteed that the same people screaming about, they got Kirk alive, are the same people who screamed out when they killed him off. Make up your damn minds! For the love of God, people. This is the podcast. This is the side of fandom that is going to kill off Star Trek completely because we've been happy with nothing. Nothing is going to make them happy at this point. It's like when talking about Captain Maxwell and the Wounded. It's like, in fact, hell, let me call that up if I can. Because I don't want to mess up the line. Yeah, there we go. I got the raw footage, actually. I'm planning on using that in the video at some point. Somehow they just scroll out the raw, missing the effects. Because the episode is The Wounded. There we go. All right. Here we are. This is where I think Doomcock and his minions have found themselves mired right here. Picard talking to O'Brien about Maxwell. I think when one has been angry for a very long time, one gets used to it, and it becomes comfortable, like old leather. And finally, it becomes so familiar that one can't ever remember feeling any other way. That is where we're at with this section of fandom. They are so ingrained in hating anything that comes out under the Secret Hideout, banner right now. Whether Kurtzman has a thing to do with it or not. And increasingly, he doesn't. Strange New World, that's Akiva Goldman thing. And frankly, Kurtzman was pissed when they get, because that slot was supposed to go to a Section 31 show. No one would have a brain once they let him do a Section 30. He's made such a hash with Section 31. I'm sure the network has heard the fans don't like what you've done so far. Why are we going to give it the entire series? No. Akiva Goldman's got an Oscar to his credit for writing, arguable as that is, for why he got it. And he seems to have a better handle because he is a fan. He, maybe not in Greek, but he went to conventions. He's somewhat versed in the lore, at least. And he appreciates the fact that it's supposed to be, it works best as an episodic format. You can do some long form stuff, but if you're going to try and get the feeling, like you better get back to basics, and that's what Strange New World is trying to do. I haven't watched it because it's still tied to the Discovery timeline. I'm not going to give it the time of day. Yeah. All right, there we go. Yeah, again, as far as Picard goes, I would not expose them to season 1 and 2. That's just horrible. Okay. Well, thank you. I like to think so. But what Terry Metallis is managing to do so far is what is considered generally impossible. It's like, what Donald Duck Gunn talked about, the old days with the Blues Brothers band. They're turning chicken shit into chicken salad, okay? They're actually taking parts of the thing that were just totally idiotic and actually making something with them, this is the raw material you're stuck with here, Terry, so what can you do? Well, I think we can actually do something here. Using the basic rules of Star Trek, which previous seasons have ignored till now, but you plop all this stuff in here and you actually treat it like at the Star Trek show, you can do wonderful things with this material, okay? Even take the idiotic idea of making Picard an android and actually doing something with it. Of course, Section 31 is going to want the body, the old body. Stick it in a stasis pod and stick it somewhere. And why? Just because, everyone's got to have a hobby. Here, no. There's some rearranging. I'm really just piling crap up over here. What I'm wanting to do, I did get some stuff, though, today to hopefully be able to rig up the green screen. It's going to have to be kind of a Rube Goldberg type thing. With got a couple of dowel rods and some string. If I can just work out some way to fix some pins up here and then just hoist it up, and I can be anywhere. I can be doing the weather. We have a cold front coming down from the north here. No. Anyway. I make an audition tape for some weather slot somewhere. Anyway. But right now, we're just dealing now with fans who's like, they don't want to hear boo about, they're finally doing it right. It's like, one of my tweets, I said, look, take it from this grizzled old Trekkie here, okay? This is good Star Trek, okay? It's coming from a very bad place in the first 2 seasons of Picard, but they're finally getting it right. The characters are in character. The technology is consistent with Star Trek. Doomcock is, well, let's just say he has not taken Dr. McCoy's advice, and he's buried himself in the bit. Okay? He's backed himself into a corner that he can't back down now. He has to maintain the righteous fury of 1,000 suns, that they have destroyed Star Trek, and again, no recognition that that is not how the world works. We could stamp our feet and protest and picket outside Paramount as much as we want. We're not going to do a damn thing to get rid of Kurtzman. Because, again, as I keep saying, that damn contract that Moonves saddled everything with. Yeah. Canadian producer guy? You talking Paul Shadow? I think he's actually been watching. He said it's actually pretty good. What he put out a video was slamming these guys who refuse to do anything, and they're mistaking the thumbnail for endorsement. No, you think, you guys, you're missing out here. That's it. I have to concede. Yes, it is tied to Discovery because of this thing, but and the thing, going forward, no, I don't want this particular thing really to go forward. I want a complete restart in proper canon Star Trek timeline. I mean, Metallis is stuck with what he's got. He has to work with the stuff that the non-negotiable points. That Picard's in an android body. That the things did apparently happen, but he doesn't have to like it. And the references he made to it have kind of made it clear he doesn't like what happened. If he could get rid of it, he would. But it's like with the lower decks. People can be, it's member bears and references. Well, yeah, it's references. You got a universe that's pushing 60 years old. To not reference anything is insane. Yeah, they managed to bring back data in a pretty clever way, I think. I mean, it's like, androids are, the plans have been a matter of record going back when they first found data on that planet. When the crew of the Trieste found data laying on a slab, it's pretty obvious they would have done a complete scan and everything. They know exactly what's made and whatever, his components, how it's put together, how he works. They don't know quite. They never quite figured out. But he worked. He entered Starfleet, graduated. I think the class of '73, whatever. I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense overall, but probably talking about Stardate. But Methos they actually put in the clip from Encounter at Farpoint to those who are really slow and not. This is where it comes from when Riker first meets Data. It puts in, them can't whistle worth a damn. It's just baffling, frankly. It's like, enough already, guys. Come on. We're not getting rid of Kurtzman until that contract allows us to get rid of Kurtzman. And they're doing it as much as they can sideline him as much as they can, clearly. He had zero input to Picard season 3. The fact that Metallis got away with the backhanded slaps of the previous seasons show. And Rob Burnett asked him, "How did you get away with it?" Nobody cares. Nobody in the front office gave a rip what he was doing. He could have stocked the bridge with Vegas showgirls. They wouldn't give a rip. They only care as long as the budget comes in on time. And that's another thing. Another thing, what the studio is going to care about. Because I'm pretty sure this show is not blowing the budget like crazy. It's a one long bottle show for the most part. Most of it takes place on existing sets. So they got the the Titan and that extra. There's not a lot of extra sets going on here. So I suspect the Paramount brass is breathing a big sigh of relief that they're finally not blowing the budget every damn time. And as soon as Metallis becomes available, and they let everything settle for a while. Like Mike McMahon over at Lower Decks, his crew are also, again, no input whatsoever from Kirkman and his band of morons. The only thing they got a paycheck because they're in the credits. That's it. Creatively, they got squat to do with that show. Well, now, what's the problem with Oh, good Lord. What's your problem with it? Okay, Lucas. Hang in there. They're developing new stuff every day. Okay. The amazing thing, I'll tell you what. One thing is real good against brain tumors. Thalidomide. Same thing they used to result in little flipper babies back in the 50s and 60s. It does that because it cuts off blood flow to new blood vessels. Which, while it's rather horrible for developing fetuses, it is lethal to inoperable brain tumors. Look into it. Push them on it. Okay. Oh, for Christ's sakes. Okay, Again, I think we're in the case of you got a page and a half on no, you're watching the show for the wrong reasons, guys. Okay. Because for one, we finally got the characters acting like the characters. Patrick Stewart's playing Jean-Luc Picard again and not working on his own personal demons on screen for us. Like, I know Patrick Stewart had a horrible childhood, an abusive father because he had PTSD at the wazoo from the war. But Patrick Stewart's father was not Jean-Luc Picard's father. Well, again, it's trying to be as true to canon as it can. But I think it's also recognition that it is a different timeline. Okay, so it can, That's an interesting one. But the one, it's being truer to its own timeline than the previous two seasons were. Okay, so this is a Okay. Are we going to start talking about Patrick Stewart's father? All of a sudden? Different people formulate differently. Some people don't formulate it at all. And Patrick Stewart's father was one of those who couldn't cope at all. Before the war, he's apparently a very nice, happy-go-lucky guy. But whatever he saw during the war pretty much broke him. And we're talking the 1940s. They didn't know how to deal with this. They were still still being called cell shock and battle fatigue. Okay. So the friend, just send him home. He'll let him rest. Give him a pension, and he'll get. And he never did. Turned into an abusive drunk. All right. Again, everybody handles it differently. Some people can bounce back from it, some people can't. That's why we really, But again, this This last episode didn't deal with any of that, and frankly, they haven't been dealing with any of it all season. This is fun. Again, we're no longer dealing with Patrick Stewart's childhood trauma. We're finally getting Jean-Luc Picard again. And again, I thought it would, it made sense the way they brought back Data. You're also going to cram, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, but yeah, they're going to cram everything they got, little loud, little before, little, but a lot of data. Okay, eventually, I think because thing is, I crammed it all together and stuck them in a socket. He hadn't had time to adjust. Of course, everything's flicking. He didn't have a chance to process it all. And I think by the end, which we have 4 more episodes, he should probably be a little more integrated. He'll learn how to, assume dominance and stuff lore back into a happy box. And I'm not sure what frankly, if I was in charge of this, I wouldn't have bothered with B4. He was a blank slate. Okay. Do you have a daughter? Or a couple of daughters? Fathers and daughters, it's special little relationship, and so even Johnny Carson talking about back then he had sons, but he said if he had a daughter, someone comes up, don't you mess with my daughter, All right, so put yourself in Geordi's position. You're no longer hop on the galaxy and stuff. You settle down. Would you be particularly happy with one of your daughters in a situation like that, as just about as dangerous as it used to be when you were, rough and ready lieutenant, hot wiring, warp drives in a moment's notice? I think Geordi is taking it very well, actually. He's got a cushy little office job. He's running the Fleet Museum. Engineers don't like, surprises and jolts in the system. They like things to run smoothly. And this is not running smoothly. Okay. Again, it's conflicted. He's not seeing an ensign. He's seeing his daughter who's being disobedient. Okay. Man, he doesn't. And again, upper ranks, they don't have to acknowledge anything. Okay. That's something that's pointed out when you're the lower rank, you render the salute. They don't have to respond. Well, it's kind of hilarious though that no, yeah, he's not happy with his daughter for being in the situation and for wanting to be in the situation. So he's having to deal with all this here. Well, so it's real fun. If you're the enlisted guy walking along and officer comes by and anticipating this, he salutes first. If you're smart, you still do your salute, and if you're feeling extra cheeky, you're one that says carry on. Now, there's a few times where the end result was the captain saluted me, and I was like, yep, move on. And again, we just got Geordi back. Okay, this is very upsetting to his daily routine now. And it was kind of fun watching Shaw geek out a bit over meeting Geordi LaForge. Oh, I just loved it. Yeah, okay, we'll geek out later, guys. Let's just be thankful they're reintroducing military protocol here. The past 2 seasons have been totally devoid of it. That's part of the thing. It's like there's been nothing on the previous 2 seasons that really resembled anything. Even Q was out of character, for God's sakes. He did what he could with it, but it's like, that's not Q. Where the hell did he start doing this? And again, it's probably easier for me to deal with this because I just flat out avoided season 2 of Picard. I'd catch clips here and there in reviews. But by and large, like, no, I'm not participating in this shit show. Mm-hmm. That's a debate that's been going on since the original series. Are they, aren't they in military? Because you got military ranks and military protocols and, courts of military justice. Even the police also, love that. But best of now, actually, was really the Coast Guard. They're there to patrol and keep peace most part, but they got some pretty heavily armed frigates out there. Okay? I mean, it's the military in the way it functions, in the way they operate, but it's not in the sense that they're the primary duty of a military is to kill people and break things. Starfleet has the capability of killing people and breaking things, but that's not their primary job. Okay, was that directed at Will or at me? That's a good way to work at it. Yeah. Now, like I said, 3 episodes first, second, at me. We're managing. We're plugging away somehow. The fact is, I think what we call as transitional housing. Like, yeah, we got rent bills, we got a rent to pay, but they don't freak out if we can't pay it all. We're having to work off a couple of months here to throw out what we can while we try and sort out our lives, get everything straight. So I'm hoping April will be able to pretty much take care of April's rent while we're still working off the balance of the past few months. But we're no longer having a gun to our head saying pay up or you're back out on the street. Okay? This is part of the process of getting out of that whole cycle. And the one thing we've been desperately needing since this whole thing began 5-6 years ago is, well, it's the county, really. It's a glorified, it's a very pretty version of the projects in a way. Got newly refurbished. We've got brand new Frigidaire appliances in the kitchen. Got a ceiling fan, if you can tell that by the light. And yeah, they're giving everybody the time to figure out, they sort their lives out, and stay off the streets. And right now, I'm looking at it as kind of a pretty much, yeah, it's in a nice neighborhood. It's not far from where spent a good deal part of my life, about 20 some years of my life here. But it's, what was it? But anyway, we're getting there. Okay. The whole point is hopefully try and rearrange our financial situation so that we can actually start getting the rent taken care of, and better to be get the rent paid and be late on other things. Because the way it was going, I was we can be on time and then, but the rent gets screwed up. Well, I don't know. But I can only, at this point, like I said, they are, the best I can do at this point is to sideline Kurtzman as much as possible. They can't fire him because the contract is, I'm guessing the buyout would be ridiculously huge. And probably a lot of penalties. One thing I think, apparently Moonves knows how to do is a crafty contract. Yeah. Right now, I'm thinking, if I can tap dance for a few more years, then I can start drawing my own retirement, and then we can finally, because as it stands right now, it'll be giving me about $700 a month to go with Steph's disability thing, and then find, okay, now we can finally do something. And I can stop having to push. I'm having transmission problems with the van right now. I really don't want to start trying to do DoorDash again. Besides the fact that you can't afford the damn gas anymore, the van is 30 freaking years old, and so they're hanging on by eye teeth right now. And if that tranny goes, that's it. But yeah, the best we can do right now is, again, the network's doing it because they don't want Kurtzman. He's already, Clarice was supposed to be a big thing. He killed it. Not in a good way. He made a mess of that one. Oh, okay, that kind of sucks. But they're supposed to be, and I think I'm sensing a bit of spite there because Brian Fuller did a big thing with the Hannibal, but they couldn't get the rights to Clarice Starling and that part of the thing. Well, what does Kirkman do? He gets the rights to that, and he's going to do his own thing and fucks it up. And that's where you saw like Entertainment Weekly come out and just label him right at that Kurtzman is a known IP hack. And there should be a rule about how many IPs you're allowed to ruin in a 10-year period. Because he was in the process of running Star Trek into the dirt. He killed off the Universal's Dark Universe in one movie. They had they had a big photo layout of all the people they had lined up. One movie. He destroys it. That takes talent, okay? We're Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah, that was him. He ruined that one. So, yeah. Kurtzman, he's not the wonder boy that JJ was. And even JJ's, luster is fading rather quickly. Because it's becoming clear that he doesn't really know what he's doing either. He's a IP leech. Attach himself to other things. When he does come out that's supposedly original, is usually ripping off on something else. Fringe was a blatant ripoff of the X-Files with a couple of weird twists thrown in. Lost was cross between Gilligan's Island and the Twilight Zone. I think it was. Alias was, your standard boilerplate spy story. Felicity was, young girl at college off on her own. How often has that been done? And even then, he screws it up with some kind of time travel story at the end. Because he doesn't know how to end things. He'll set it up, let it roll in, and ease off somewhere else, let someone else deal with it. See, the mystery box only works if you know what's in the damn mystery box yourself when you set it up. And you let other people know what's in the damn mystery box. Okay? Now, I just refuse to even bother with Fringe because, please. I was already kind of getting cheesed off at JJ by that point anyway. But they, when they're doing Discovery and really firing up, one of the things that guaranteed you didn't get a job on that show was letting them know you were a Star Trek fan. I mean, we want new opinion of voice. They didn't want anybody on there could tell Kurtzman, this is wrong. This isn't supposed to work this way. I mean, even when they had Jonathan Frakes on, that's not how we did it on Star Trek. So they went around time too. But again, it's like when they brought in Mike McMahon to do Lower Decks, it was clear from the get-go, this man has forgotten more about Star Trek Kurtzman than you will ever know. He's doing a Star Trek show because he likes it. A lot of the storylines came out of his Twitter feed where he was, speculating of a season 8 of Next Generation and coming up with goofy story ideas. A lot of them have made it into Lower Decks. They're not throwing member berries up because they're throwing it because they love being in a Star Trek show. They want to play with every toy in the toy box. They like being in this, Sam. And so, they're going to, just do this, and they know how the things work either. They're not just throwing names out there for the sake of, hey, remember this? No, usually it's a part of the plot line. And it's a logical part of a plot line. And the people arguing about, the animated series being canon. Lower Decks has canonized so much of the animated series, it's not even funny. Even the giant Spock from Infinite Vulcan, his skeleton shows up in a collector's thing. And that's also the first time we've seen a direct screen cap of Kirk and Spock from the animated series in a pad that Ransom was holding. Talk about, I wish I could travel on those, there's a rather clumsy integration of the term TOS, but whatever, I'll let that one go. Because also, you got some of the best character development of all of the series going on there. Beckett Mariner is not the same character she was when we started off. And we learned a lot more of kind of why she is the way she is. It's not just stupid Rick and Morty crap going on. There's actually some stuff going on there. And most of the characters have had this. They've given a lot of background characters have gotten development on here. Jennifer the Andorian, we've even gotten a little bit on her. We learned a lot about Billups, the chief engineer. I think we're still, Ransom could use a little more fleshing up, but we got, the whole dynamic with Captain Freeman. And actually, the Admiral, so we're not sure where Beckett's pulling the name Mariner from. It could be just, pulling a dictionary. Yeah, I'm not going by, or no, because your daughter too. Something. So Admiral Freeman and Captain, they were so. I think, and there's also Major Grin pulled us out here, and there's a little circumstantial evidence that you could pull that. Yeah, Beckett Mariner was one of the kids on the Enterprise D. So I think it's like When the Bow Breaks, and there was a black girl with the same kind of hairstyle. So it's kind of like why she's not impressed by us. She used to live on the Federation flagship, okay? And it's like, yeah. So Beckett was on there, Mariner was on there. And again, Freeman was, Riker's, protege type of thing. We found that out when, when the Titan came screaming in, rescuing them. And as far as Patrick, yeah, why not? Why not do something with this race that everyone kind of wrote off as a joke? Those are the very people that would become dangerous if these people actually got weapons. They're just dumb enough to use them. So yeah, a lot of it is played for laughs, but the circumstances are very serious. It's like when the Starfleet security shows up to arrest Captain Freeman, no one was laughing. They know when to pull the dramatic stuff out of the closet and say, yeah, this is now serious. This has gotten real. And Mariner did not handle it well. Everyone recognized she did not handle it well. And in one case of, yes, trust the system, she got exonerated. They found out what was going on. And when, through the thing, she could come screaming back. Now she wants to be in Starfleet. She wants to start applying herself now. This is not the same character that we saw in the first season where she couldn't give a rip. She deliberately gets herself demoted back to ensign because it's just the responsibility of being a lieutenant freaks her out. Okay. Having her own quarters doesn't feel right. She likes being in the corridor with everyone else. And we picked up stuff on Boimler and Tendi. Tendi's gotten incredible, and still got a thing of what's going on with Rutherford. And the fact that we can remember their names means they have made an impact. These are characters now. And I think we just got that Vulcan, Talin, I think his name is. So this is a. So this is the Ricky White. Watch the damn show and pay attention to what is going on with these characters in this plot line. Quit getting so hung up on the references and the jokes. Watch what's going on. There's actually a story going on that show. And Prodigy, the same thing. A couple of hardcore Voyager fans are writing this show, and The worst I think they've done so far is you got, the Discovery showed up on a graphic during one of the big holographic display things. Other than that, they've been very solid. And the one thing that I was making note of, when these shows have the opportunity to make a reference to a time period at the same time as welcome aboard, Captain. But one thing, when they have the chance, when the opportunity presents itself to make a reference to the period Discovery is in, or then they don't make it. They make a reference to something in canon. Most clear event was the episode Strange Energies, and Ransom suddenly becoming God, and they call up Gary Mitchell. He's not in a Discovery marching band uniform. He's in his second uniform from where No Man's Gone Before. And I bet if you zoom in, it probably looks just like Gary Lockwood at the time too. They do not reference it, certainly not directly. And when they refer back to Star Trek history, it's canon Star Trek. And I can only argue it so much because if you still can't handle the Rick and Morty style humor, fine. I like Rick and Morty. Okay. I watched a season 5 premiere. I thought it was brilliant. The way they handled the time travel thing. I mean, the part about Rick arguing with his merch now, Mr. Nimbus. That was secondary to the whole thing. It was Morty going back. They're on the wine back and then going back, and this entire culture building up around just him popping in periodically and coming and. The time dilation, the guy goes back. It's been 50 years. The parent, kids hate them, and this entire planetary culture built up around revenge against this interloper. What the hell? Yeah. That's the thing, So far, we only have. The animateds are the only ones who I would consider a part of the canon timeline. And Picard, I wish the hell I could. Season 3, I wish the hell I could because it's just too tied to the previous thing. But it's finally at least good. Their characters are finally being written properly and portrayed properly. I mean, Jonathan Frakes was afraid because he hadn't acted in forever, really, aside from the cameos. And he's on top of his game. He's getting in better and better shape as the series goes on. So, I bet you compare episode 1 and the past episode, he's lost about 20 pounds. But anyway, how many got? We got 6. This is quite a crowd, normally. I'm lucky to get 3. Okay, so we've actually got a crowd going here at once. Now. Frankly, I don't know. Is this coming through? Because the internet's been squirrely all day. So I'm wondering, is it still coming out? Because I'm afraid to open up YouTube to see how it's coming through. But so far, it seems to be fine from my end here. But I'm kind of at a bit of a loss of what to do with the Doomcock Brigade, who just will not acknowledge. No, it's a good show. Power down, okay? Holster the phasers. It's a good show, for Christ's sakes, okay? It's finally become a good show. Yeah. Well, okay, good. I've only had to fit the reset button on the server about 3 times today. So. Oh, I still need to at some point rearrange this and actually have access to the tabletop here because I've got just a mountain of pieces of ship and paperwork and a Fingerhut catalog, which I Pretty sure I'm not actually going to buy anything out of it. Yeah, I don't know how many have seen this jewel. This is my idea of the canon version of the Discovery. The class of starship immediately preceding the Constitution class. I think I dubbed it the Bonhomme Richard. Well, I'm not weird to it, but I like it. Oh. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I got ships piled on top of ships here. I got my poor bedraggled Eldridge here. Kind of a boxes on top of boxes here. I know I've sent pictures of this to Samuel a few times and you guys, but this was part of a Dominion War thing where you're talking how desperate they were. This we're going to have the last and certainly least of the Constitution class ships. And always, constantly had problems. Never got into active duty, but did get used as a test bed for all kinds of systems, especially new shield systems. The problem is it also had a one last attempt at a Multitronic computer, the M6 or 7 probably. And unfortunately, this one was a raving paranoid, and it didn't help when they're constantly hauling the ship out to a firing range and firing at her. The result, but thankfully in this case, the computer was only put in charge. It had to be in charge of something. It couldn't just sit there. So they put it in charge of the coffee maker in the rec deck on deck 6. And that room was basically completely off limits because it is totally uninhabitable. There's just coffee everywhere. It's eating into the bulkheads. As far as ship systems go, it's got a standard Duotronic, computer system. But that doesn't stop the thing, whenever the ship's in danger. It's like, oh my God, we're gonna die! And you shut that thing up. And yeah, I just heard my voice from the next room echoing because Steph's on her pad. So let me get this thing back over here. But yeah, we just keep plugging away here on Picard though, because it's like, folks, more and more people I think are starting to come. Okay, all right, fine. They're not totally shitting the bed. Okay, and if we can just get people to look. I am pretty sure they're in a box somewhere in the closet. Okay. What the hell we're going to do with them, I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. We got various, we got the kind of a blue origin badge. We got, Apollo badges. But, all right. One of these is Steph's. We each got a John Pertwee sonic screwdriver. But, oh. But I'm still wondering what, that page and a half of notes there. What was the problem with the episode there, Sci-Fi? Is it still there? Sci-Fi Nation? The whole thing about, turn Kirk into a member of everything. They just established Kirk is still alive. Why can't you appreciate that? You just laid out the welcome mat for Bill Shatner to come back as Kirk in a way that kind of makes sense. What kind of minds did you dump on that? Because nobody liked the idea of Kirk, festering away under a pile of rocks on Viridian 3. Okay. I wrote a version where they came back in a DS9 script. I hope that push along there. I'm still really proud of that script. And involved invoking another, the celestial orbs. This time, the orb of life. And had a thing where they they brought Kirk back to life. They kidnapped Spock and Scotty, and there was another thing of question of whatever happened to the Defiant. Well, of course, what I had totally invalidated by Enterprise, and they did much better, so I have no problem with that. But I like the story. There's also a way, kind of poking fun at one of the guys on the AOL message boards, who was serious hardcore. But he's like, I was even thinking of casting. I was thinking Ben Stiller could play that. I had Will Smith because he's a big Star Trek fan. You have him as one of the guys back when he was affordable. But yeah, it's like, but this whole thing, basis and appeal. People, the show is finally good. The only thing Paramount is going to respond to in this case, because they can't just fire him, they got to let the contract run out, or at least get down to the point where they can afford to buy him out, which I don't know if it's even possible. So they just let it expire, sideline as much as possible. The only influence we have in this is to respond to stuff when it's finally good. The thing is, Doomcock is far more nuanced when it comes to Star Wars than to Star Trek. With Star Wars, he's the same thing. Reward the stuff that's good. If it comes out bad, yes, poop on it. But he said surprisingly, Andor was actually pretty good. He's been singing the praises of Mandalorian all along. He said that's actually pretty good. When it comes to Star Trek, he has no quarter whatsoever. He wants to burn it all to the ground. It's like, well, guess what? You burn all the ground, it ain't coming back. Because you will prove to the network, we are not going to be happy with anything. It doesn't matter if Gene Roddenberry himself came back full, and full of his faculties, and wrote it himself, and we brought back Gene Kuhn and everyone else, and all the glory days. You'd still piss on it. You're done. Screw it. We're going to shelve it. We're just going to sell merch from here on out. That's what's going to be the result. We will never get another new Star Trek production again if that mindset is allowed to prevail. The only chance we have is to let them know when they're doing something good. They're not total idiots at that level. They recognize, okay, the stuff Kurtzman does, they hate. The stuff he has nothing to do with, they like. All right, never let him do another, because they don't want to put out crap that nobody likes. They want to put out product that people are going to like and appreciate and buy the merch from. And buy the DVD sets and everything and watch them again and bring in new viewers so they can get the numbers up. Because someone's got to put it their heads of this whole. No, we're going for new. We don't need the old fans. The old fans are not going to be there. We've shown that pretty clearly. You piss us off. We ain't coming back, and more importantly, we ain't bringing new people in. That's where you get new fans. New fans do not come out of the blue. They are brought in by older fans saying, "Hey, this is good. Watch this." And if we ain't there to bring them in, no one else is going to bring them in. No one's going to wander off the street at this point and suddenly discover Star Trek for the first time. And I hope that those very few that do go back and watch the other stuff and think, hey, that's actually better, and start supporting the older shows. As much as they may enjoy what they see on Discovery and Strange New Worlds, it's like, you ain't seen nothing yet, guys. And I'm kind of a little sick and tired of people singing the praises of that ripoff they did of Balance of Terror. And that's what it was. They did not credit Paul Schneider or the original script. They cut and pasted the entire freaking script pretty much. Without attribution, I'll guarantee you they didn't pay him anything, pay the estate anything either. That is plagiarism. That is actionable under the Writers Guild. And I'm waiting, and they've done this over and over again. They stripped off an Ursula K. Le Guin story. Kurtzman Approach admitted it in an interview. They ripped off Dorothy Fontana's Star Trek novel without attribution. And I don't get this argument that, oh, we already own it. No, you don't. You don't. Sure as hell don't own the Ursula K. Le Guin story. They're ripping writers off left and right. I'm waiting for the time it turns into a class action lawsuit with Harlan Ells's estate leading the charge. Because I think one of the things in his will was that Star Trek is not allowed to touch City on the Edge of Forever. And what do? They stick the Guardian of Forever in one of the episodes of Discovery. I guarantee you, if he were alive, he would not allow that to happen. If they went with anyway, he'd been suing their butts off. He would have personally gone to Paramount Studios and stamped the hell out of Kurtzman's desk, and probably with Kurtzman's head in between his foot and the desktop. It's like, who the hell do you think you are, you pathetic little hack, to rip off my words? He had no problem threatening Gene Roddenberry himself with a noose outside. When he went to because of the first rewrite of Cities Forever, he, as he waited out in the outer office, Roddenberry's office, because he, had an outer where the secretary was, he had fashioned a little hangman's noose out of rope, hung it up in front of the doorway, and when Harlan came in, he's got it hanging in the doorway, and Harlan points at it and says, "Tell me somebody else did not touch my words." I mean, one of the descriptors that David Gerald used to describe Harlan Ellis is Lilliput's answer to Godzilla. Okay? He is not a man you angered. Okay? I mean, at a point where it's like, he didn't care. They didn't have any more money for he agreed to do the rewrites himself, gratis, free, no charge. No one else touches my script. I mean, the final thing was that Roddenberry said, "No, I will do one last pass myself," And it's kind of in his capacity as executive producer at that point. He had the right, and he did that all the time. He almost never took credit for it. He could have had co-writing credit on half the scripts in the first season, at least. A lot of the writers got pissed off that they put pseudonyms up there, but he was trying to maintain consistency of the show. Even as old as Harlan Ellison would have been by the time of the show, he would have. And this is a man who held a grudge. Even when, after they had supposedly buried the hatchet, when they put out the trade paper of his original script and all the stories about how it got to and where going through this stuff, he still vented his spleen. He was still sore about what happened. And he had his own theories about who actually did that last rewrite. He's sure that when Edith did a little spout about, well, someday we'll have this incredible energy. That's Roddenberry. Yeah, that's a Roddenberry's drivel right there. But I think that last rewrite was really done by Dorothy Fontana. Because that has Dorothy. There's some Gene Kuhn from previously, but I think that was largely Dorothy who did the final rewrite. And I think it says something when the animated series kicked off, like first episode they were doing was one of the early ones was Yesteryear. You got a brief appearance of the Guardian, and again, she would have had to have gotten Harlan's permission for that. And the fact that he had enough respect for her that he allowed it, because previously other writers had wanted to invoke the Guardian in their stories, he turned them down flat. No, you were not touching that that story. Not happening. So yeah, that one is like when that thing showed. I am the Guardian for. Oh hell no! And the thing is, these writers think they're doing. Oh, they'll love this. No, we won't. You are pissing all over the memory of one of the best episodes and one of the biggest writers to ever write for that show. And you think you're throwing like that's where you're throwing member berries out there, trying to tease. Hey, remember this? You don't even know what the hell you're doing, do you guys? You don't just throw out a reference here and there and expect us to leap up. Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, no. And that is probably the biggest crime that Kurtzman has done. He has taken one of the most loyal and also one of the most outspoken fan bases in entertainment history. Okay? I think we're only beaten by the Sherlock Holmes fan base. Okay? But the ones who stuck by our property through thick and thin and would vent in it. We got a space shuttle named Enterprise, for God's sakes. Okay? Persistent pressure finally got the show back on television in the form of Next Generation. My favorite moments was at StarCon, Denver, after Richard Arnold's of the presentation of what Next Generation coming up. Now Michelle Nichols comes up on her do her thing, and she's, I didn't realize till just now, you've won, you finally won, and the crowd's like, yeah, we did, and of course everyone uproarious applause. We finally did it. We got the show back where it belongs on television. But I'm really getting sick and tired of this. Just writing stuff off as member berries. Look, you got a universe that the property is pushing 60 years old. You've got a very elaborate history. There's very little that hasn't been covered and touched on at some point. You're gonna have, especially when you got a group of characters with that much shared history, you're gonna have things come up here and there. And between the Daystrom thing and Section 31, you'd think they wouldn't match up every little thing they can get a hold of, just in case they find the plans for the Genesis was it was classified, but it was still known among the upper ranks. Okay. Yeah, the squirrels have returned to the internet. So, all right, we're at about an hour, so I think it's probably about time to wrap it up anyway. But yeah, we got an elaborate universe like this, and that much stuff we know. We'd be screaming if they didn't reference some of this stuff. Okay, if they just sort of out of the blue, hey, wait a minute, didn't you? So either they make the reference or we make the references ourselves. Either way, the references are going to be made. Let's just concern ourselves, are they making the references properly? Discovery and first two seasons of Picard and Strange New Worlds, they've not been using the lore properly. They've been, pissing all over it and thinking they're doing us a favor. They're finally getting it right. Let's acknowledge that. Let's praise these guys. Hey, they're finally getting it right. Terry knows what he's doing. Give him another show. And don't tie it to the crap that Kurtzman did. Okay? Let's see a proper canon timeline Star Trek show. For we haven't had a live action one of those since 2005. Okay, that's something. Let's season 5 of Enterprise. We'll pick up where I left off. You want to leave little vagaries? Have it set after the Romulan War. They're mopping up. We've got to refit Enterprise. NX-01. Archer's about ready to step down from Starfleet and get into politics. Big thing is show Trip alive. That is the one episode of the entire original run that I think can be safely junked as These Are the Voyages. It doesn't fit within the timeline of Pegasus, where it's supposed to be taking place. And it just totally screws up everything else. You know, it's like nobody was happy with that episode. In the end, not the writers, not the actors, because all the Enterprise cast felt like they're suddenly being relegated to a guest spot on Next Generation. It's like it was well intentioned but dumb. Everyone even Brandon Bragg and Rick Berman said, "Yeah, that was a mistake. Sorry, we meant well, but we screwed up." Yeah, you know. Well, also we can add to the list of Constitution class starships the USS New Jersey, which will make the folks of Battleship New Jersey giddy. Okay, but I'm a registry of 1975. That's pretty late in the thing. So I can probably chalk that up to this probably was the last Constitution class ship, certainly in this configuration. I noticed the warp drive was still operational too. The cells were spinning around. But who else was thinking? You know, I like the angle that you know they just kind of snagged the cloaking device from the bird of prey. But anyone else was thinking maybe they just might park the Titan and hop onto one of the other ships. Like we're just going to take Voyager out for a spin. Because all ships now are interconnected. These guys aren't. That's what I was expecting. That's the Enterprise A. That's not part of this, Uber network of every ship talking to each other. We'll take the cloaking device from the bird of prey. We'll put it on the Enterprise A and bye. Try and find us now, suckers. But yeah, if the internet's going weird a little, I think, and again, we're about an hour. And the one thing this channel has going for it is, repeat viewing. So, yeah. Yeah, actually, if you think about the Enterprise, you think about it here for a second. Showing a Constitution class ship, and not the Disco Prize configuration, but an original Constitution class ship, and the refit. That just get a big old hey JJ. Get a load of the cells and suck it, okay? Yeah, I think I better wrap it up here soon. But yeah, the fact that every ship on there. Well, yeah, I mean they fished the bounty out of San Francisco Bay. It took a while to find it. I do kind of wonder, is the reason why they found it maybe the cloaking device activated after everyone got off? I think there was a bit of a hint of of course they had either a D7 or Katinga, which you could probably argue is the same ship. It's just we call it a D7, they call it a Katinga, and finally they because the thing is like MiGs, we have designated things Frogger, Foxbat, that's not what the Russians call them. They got their own names for them. So I think, you could probably argue Katinga is just, the Klingon name for what we call a D7. Because there's very little difference, structure. If you match them up, there's, the neck is a little different. But other than that, the proportions are the same. But then you could also argue they've been using that same shape since the 22nd century. Because you got that Enterprise episode where they declined to use the D4 that, they were provided with. No, it's just Jack. Really, Rick? Come on. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to dig through that because there's a lot of little things there that blew right by. Apparently, also there's an NX refit. So that's like, it's Trek Yards will be tearing this one apart for weeks. Okay. They already were jumping on it just from the blurry screen cap, but now they got nice clear shots, register numbers, and a little pop quiz there on the bridge from 7. There's Voyager. What's that one? That's the Voyager. That was home. Okay. And I already saw a tweet between Jerry Ryan and Caitlin McGrew when the theme music. Yeah, here's to us. You know. Kate McGrew is still very proud of that ship. Yeah. That was my ship. Okay. And she told Will Wheaton, I feel about Voyager the same way you feel about the Enterprise D. Okay. Right. Okay. We are definitely getting over. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do this properly with a. So, PayPal link down below. I will probably go back and stick in all the other links, so like Patreon and Coffee and Subscribe Sir and yada yada, all the rest of them. But for now, I'm just going to think. Let's enjoy what we got. They're finally doing it right. And for everyone screaming about, there you go, they lighten up. There's a certain point where you got to do the thing. Get a life. It's a TV show. Yeah. There are far more things to get upset about, and I'll probably be doing that in an upcoming video. I'm already working on that one, and it will be dealing with some pretty heavy stuff. I'm going to be dragging the Rush Limbaugh thing out to take on that one. And it's going to be strictly, it's not going to be on camera. I'll have a picture of Rush's, Borgified Rush Limbaugh on there, but I'll be doing it. I've already, that's not going to be a fun story, but one that needs to be told because a lot of lives are being destroyed because of a very bad ideology that's creeped into psychotherapy nowadays. And it's one that really has no basis in science. It's an ideology based on one guy's screwy idea of how humans work and what you can do to fix them. The second you start thinking you can do something to human and manipulate it, that is where very bad things lie. The guy that started this, I rank him the same as Joseph Mengele. So I'll get to that eventually. Especially now that I finally got editing software on this computer. So I can now stop bouncing back and forth between this and the laptop. So, okay. So that's what's coming up here, and we will talk at you later.